Good evening and welcome to tonight's edition of Fact Sheet live on ETV, live on Nisim 95.9 and 100.1 here. If it's not a fact, we don't discuss it. Tonight we are here to talk about a matter which Ghanaians are still trying to make sense of. Parliament has been in the news since last week when a side of Parliament, the minority, rejected the 2022 budget. After the rejection of the budget presented by the Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta, there has been so much brouhaha as to the legitimacy of that action taken by the Speaker of Parliament with matters of constitutionality being raised. The majority complained about issues to do with procedure, issues to do with the number of members of Parliament who were in the House and whether they constituted what the Constitution of Ghana stipulates for that decision to have been arrived at. They hinted that they would do any and everything possible to reverse that decision by the minority in Parliament. Until we all held our breath waiting for the showdown today. And indeed, we had a showdown. From morning, 10 a.m., we had been waiting for Parliament's business to commence, with the Speaker of Parliament absent from the nation, seeking, to check on his health. We knew that it wasn't going to be an easy day, but I doubt this is how we expected things to turn out. Today in the evening, or in the late part of the evening, the minority in Parliament did not participate in the proceedings of Parliament. It was only the majority who were there, with the first Deputy Speaker of Parliament sitting in as Speaker. For those of us who have been following parliamentary proceedings, we had been asking ourselves, how was it going to be possible for the majority to overturn the decision of the Speaker of Parliament, the Honorable Alban Bagbin, if one of their own was sitting as the Speaker of Parliament for today? These questions were answered at the end of the day when the majority in Parliament overturned the ruling by the Speaker of Parliament today. Questions have been raised about the same issues that were raised by the majority about the voting that took place by the minority. And at the center of all this contention is Article 104, Clause 1 and 2. And what does it say? It says, except as otherwise provided in this Constitution, matters in Parliament shall be determined by the votes of the majority of members present and voting with at least half of all the members of Parliament present. The Speaker shall have neither an original nor casting vote. That's what the Constitution of Ghana says. Now, if you look at the standing orders of Parliament, if you look at 108, which focuses on voting in the House, and the procedures referenced Article 104 of the Constitution, it reads, 1. No question for decision in the House shall be proposed for determination unless there are present in the House not less than one half of all the members of the House, and except otherwise provided in the Constitution, the question proposed shall be determined by the majority of votes of the members present and voting. Mr. Speaker shall have neither an original nor a casting vote, and if upon any question before the House the votes are equally divided, the motion shall be taken to be lost. A Deputy Speaker or any other member presiding shall not retain his original vote while presiding. And so it raises the question about whether the 137 who voted in Parliament today, their position holds if the Speaker sitting in did not cast his vote. Did they have the majority to have cast the vote? If they did, how then does that of the minority last week Friday amount to unconstitutionality? Tonight, we'll try to make sense of these very technical issues and then decipher them. My name is Samuel Ishen, and I welcome you to the conversation this evening. I'm joined in the studio by my colleague Sefa Dankwa, who will be helping me for us to throw more light on the issues. But we'll try and capture the mood on Friday and then the mood in Parliament today. Then we'll begin the conversation. Do kindly stay with us. Welcome back to Fact Sheets Live on ETV, live on NISIM 95.9 and live on Facebook as well. You can join the conversation by looking for ETV Ghana and sharing your thoughts with us tonight, even as we attempt to understand and to have a fair appreciation of what happened in Parliament today when the majority in Parliament overturned the decision of the Speaker of Parliament, Alban Bagbin, last week Friday. We'll try to understand the constitutional provisions therein and then also the standing orders of Parliament and whether anything untoward was done. To help us understand these issues, tonight we'll be joined by lawyer Eric Delano of Alifo, who is a private legal practitioner and the Executive Director of Help Law Ghana. He will join us and share his thoughts with us. We'll also be joined by Mr. William Amofa, who is a government governance expert, and he will join us throwing his light on his views on the matter for us. We'll also be joined by Professor John Gachi of the University of Cape Coast, Dean of School of Business, as to what the passage of the bill of the budget means for us going forward, especially with issues about the review of some of the mechanisms that government intended to use to raise revenue. For instance, if the government said that it was going to apply the 1.7.5 Momo levy and it seeks to review that, even if it comes to 1 percentage point, what would it mean for the revenue target that was set by government and the government's intent of raising over over 100 billion when it comes to our revenue target for the year 2022? Also, the other issues that the minority raise when it comes to the expectations of the reviews they expect in the budget. To help me understand some of these issues, my colleague Sefa Dankwa is here in the studio with me. Sefa, good evening.
Good evening, Big Sam.
I hope you're doing well.
I'm great.
Well, is this how you expected things to turn out in Parliament today?
Yes, some way, somehow, I think I saw it coming. I mean, if you are somebody who's actually followed the way our Parliament has been operating over a period of time now, it's hugely polarized in most of the cases. And we've had precedents of members of Parliament of a particular group, whether the minority or the majority, when there is a motion on the floor of Parliament, and they seem not to agree to whatever it is that is being discussed on the floor of Parliament. They have the liberty, and the standing orders of Parliament gives them that liberty to actually, should I use the word abscond or leave the floor of Parliament when the matter is being raised or when they are about to decide on the matter. We saw a figment of that last Friday. That was on the 26th of November 2021 when Parliament decided to deliberate on the budget that was presented by the Finance Minister, Mr. Ken Ofori-Atta, on 18th of November 2021. And the majority decided to actually stage a walkout from the floor of Parliament. And if you have been following what the conversations have been about, at the point where the majority walked out of Parliament, people were asking the reasons behind majority walking out of Parliament, because it is your budget, it is your government that is in power, and people were of the assumption that, I mean, you cannot just stage a walkout. There might be a reason for staging the walkout. The reason, according to the majority, was because of the voting procedure. They knew very well as of that time that they were not having the full regimen of all the members of the majority group in Parliament. And if they were to vote, obviously you knew very well that it would have gone against them. So speaking to a couple of governance experts, they said, one man told me that it was a strategy to ensure that the majority group in Parliament do have a full regimen of their members before they finally decide on whether to vote on the budget or not. And that's what happened today. And today, on the floor of Parliament, you realize that all the members in the majority group in Parliament were present. So I saw it coming, and I'm not quite surprised also that the minority in Parliament or minority group in Parliament decided to leave the floor of Parliament, or decided not to even participate or be a part of today's proceedings. So it's not of a surprise to me.
Now, I'm trying to make sense of what happened today, especially on the back of the concerns that have been raised by the majority when the Speaker of Parliament ruled that the budget had been rejected. The concern was that there were 137 members of the minority group in Parliament.
Yes.
And therefore, they didn't have the numbers to have rejected the budget as presented by the Finance Minister.
Yeah.
But same happened today.
Okay.
With the First Deputy Speaker sitting in as the Speaker of Parliament, with the majority having 137. And I've already taken our viewers and our listeners through the position of the Constitution and understanding orders of Parliament. What's the difference?
There has, I mean, I would say that there have been a lot of interpretations of Article 104, and both the minority and the majority groups in Parliament seem to have different interpretation of what Article 104 is telling us. Now, if you may permit me, and I would like to read and also take the different interpretations that both the minority group and the majority group have given to this particular provision, except as otherwise provided in this Constitution, matters in Parliament shall be determined by the vote of the majority of members present and voting with at least half of the members of Parliament present. At least half of the members of Parliament. So let's do the mathematics here. The total number of members of Parliament that we have in Parliament as we speak now is 275. So half of that will be 137.5. Now, when you're doing approximation to the next, largest number will be 138.
Yeah.
Now, based on that, that's the interpretation of the majority. Based on that, based on this calculation, then it means that whatever the minority group in Parliament did on the 26th of November 2021 cannot, per the interpretation given, cannot be considered as legal or constitutional, because per the head count that we all witnessed on the floor of Parliament on that particular day, the number was not above 137, and therefore they cannot constitute a majority in Parliament to engender voting on the budget. And you bring in the issue of the minority also interpreting it in a different way. Now, in this case, what happened today in Parliament is that you mentioned, and per the standing orders of Parliament, if the Speaker, if the second Deputy Speaker sits or presides over the proceedings or presides over the business of Parliament, he does not vote on matters or on motions on the floor of Parliament. However, because he is present, his seat, when we're doing the head count, will be counted because he is present on the floor of Parliament.
But you see, if you read the Constitution, the same 104, clause 2, it says the Speaker should have neither an original nor casting vote. If you read the standing order, 108.3, it says a Deputy Speaker or any other member presiding shall not retain his original vote while presiding. What then does that mean?
You're present, you're presiding over the business or the proceedings on the floor of Parliament, but when it comes to voting or when it comes to taking decisions where members of Parliament are allowed to vote, you are not allowed to vote on the matters, but you are present and you are counted as part of the members of Parliament present at that particular given time. So that was what they used, because they knew very well that if they have the fullest of the complement of all of the members of Parliament belonging to the majority group, obviously, they can actually vote and say that, okay, we have approved the 2022 budget, because as of that time, as of the time that the voting was done today on the floor of Parliament, the number of people, or the total number of people on the floor of Parliament, were 138, which is at least half of the members of Parliament.
We are not lawyers, but we are trying to make sense of what happened today. We'll get the legal luminaries to join us this evening to shed more light on the matter of the Constitution. Because I'm trying to understand what the Constitution means when it says that the Speaker should have neither an original. I don't know what the original means. Does it mean the status of that individual as a member of Parliament? Because then it goes on to specify that that person would not also have a casting vote, the power to cast a vote.
Yeah.
So neither having an original nor casting vote is the Constitution referencing the person's position as a member of Parliament and his ability to vote. Because if you listen to, and for that purpose, I would just want our viewers and our listeners to follow us so that we will try to recount what happened from Friday until now so we can situate the conversation in proper context. And so I would want for us to go back. At the time that the Speaker of Parliament, the Right Honourable Alban Babbing, gave his ruling on the matter of the rejection of the budget, what he said, and I will compare with what has been done today.
Motion number 11 on the order paper, which says, and I read, that this Honourable House approves the budget statements and economic policy of the government for the year ending 1st December 2022. Those in favour of the motion say aye. Those against the motion say no. On the next, clearly, the noes have it. The motion is accordingly lost.
So this was the time when the Speaker of Parliament, the Honourable Right Honourable Alban Babbing, was given his ruling on the matter of the rejection of the budget, 2022 budget. Now, let's come down to what happened today when the first Deputy Speaker, sitting in as Speaker, also gave his ruling on the matter of the same budget, its reversal and its approval. All right, but before we go to that video of today's happenings, I would want for us to get the opinions of a lawyer on this matter as to what the Constitution stipulates and what it means when the Constitution says that the Speaker shall have neither an original nor casting vote. In that respect, we have lawyer Eric Delano Alifo joining us on the show. Lawyer, good evening. Thanks so much for joining us. Hello, good evening, lawyer. Hello, good evening, lawyer. All right. It looks like we have a little challenge with our connection to lawyer, but we'll try and re-establish connection with him and continue the conversation. But let's go back to Parliament and then, like I said, take a look at what happened when the Honourable Joe Osei-Owusu ruled on the same matter of the budget.
Mr. Speaker, as I say in tree, a quang in chain at the FF by the Sika and Eto and Nasser Begay. Mr. Speaker, at this juncture, we have some 8%, 2.4 million of our people bearing the burden, or in a sense, carrying the palanquin for 30 million people in our nation, with a poor reflection of 14% revenue to GDP ratio. This is a poor reflection of the country, and this must also change. We must all, at this time, bear the burden together. Mr. Speaker, we have nothing to fear but to move forward in a united way. Let us challenge ourselves for the triumph of higher achievement, and let's re-establish the Black Star of Africa for a Ghana beyond aid. Mr. Speaker, I would like to assure the minority that in committee, all of these issues will be addressed, and we will have established a budget that will build an entrepreneurial nation, resolve our unemployment problems, resolve our debt problems, and ensure that the roads that we all require will be built. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable members, before we proceed, I have just received communication from the Presidency. Mr. Speaker, absent from Ghana, in accordance with Article 59 of the Constitution, I write to inform you that I'll be traveling outside the country in the afternoon of Tuesday, 30th November 2021, to Atlanta, Georgia, United States of America, to attend the 45th Annual Legislative Conference of the National Black Caucus of States Legislators at the invitation of Honorable Representative Billy Mitchell, President of the Association, to be held from 30th to 3rd December 2021 in Atlanta, USA, where the U.S. Vice President, Her Excellency Kamala Harris, and I will be the guest speakers. I will return to Ghana in the evening of Thursday, 2nd December 2021. During my absence, the Vice President, Alhaji Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, shall, in accordance with Article 68 of the Constitution, act in my stead. Yours sincerely, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo. It's addressed to the Right Honourable Speaker, Office of Parliament, Parliament House, Accra. Honourable members, we move to the order paper addendum. Motion. Honourable members, the motion that was moved by the Honourable Minister and have been debated is now ready for a decision to be taken. We have already determined that the appropriate numbers are in the chamber, and therefore the House stands ready to take a decision. Now I'll put the question. I'll put the question. All in favor of the House adopting the resolution moved by the Honourable Minister for Finance, say aye. Aye. All against, say no. The ayes have it. The motion moved. The House has adopted the financial. The House has accordingly approved the budget statement of.
And that's the moment when we had the members of parliament shouting "Abemori, Abemori, Abemori," because the budget, 2022 budget, had been approved by the majority in parliament. Immediately after that, the minority in parliament also held a press conference. I'd like for us to take some of the views expressed, and then we can continue with the conversation in studio and get our lawyers and our resource persons to speak to.
And it does not serve as a good tax instrument because it's regressive. We also ask them to adjust even the threshold of this 100 Ghana, maybe upward. They also said they were not ready to do that. So if you didn't see the minority cooperating, these were the very reasons we are unable to support them. So we're determined to support them to redeem the economy, because we want to inherit a healthy economy under President Mahama in the very foreseeable future of 2025. But the difficulty was that they said on those matters. Now let me come to the business of Parliament. When you lay a budget statement minus concessions and you approve it without knowing the concessions, what have you approved? What have you approved? So let's get serious. Those of you who are familiar with the work of Parliament, we have seen motions amended on the floor of Parliament. It was just for the Minister for Finance to amend those aspects of the budget statement, or for better choice of a word, revise it. For instance, on Acre Energy, we clearly drew their attention that your rendition does not reflect the resolution which were passed by Parliament. An unpleasant truth which he must accept today and accept tomorrow. He can't alter that. So if you don't change it in the budget statement, where else are you going to change it? Which committee are you going to change it? We said EJAPA. We will not support EJAPA today. We will not support it tomorrow, because this Minister of Finance have collateralized every opportunity and revenue in order that he can endanger the future for an incoming political administration led by John Dramani Mahama and the NDC. Ghana Exim securitized, Get Fund collateralized, ESLA extended by 9 years when the sunset was supposed to be for 5 years. Therefore, we simply said, don't collateralize our mineral resources, because even without collateralization, you earn $130 million US every other year. So live with that. So, ladies and gentlemen of the press, we will address a full-scale press conference on all these issues, but we needed to let the Ghanaian people know where we stand. We don't support the e-levy in its form and character as announced in paragraph 315 and 316 of the budget statement. Our indication to them to revise it to take care of the ordinary people, particularly people who depend on $100 remittances from abroad, even when the ranking member of finance schooled them, that not all the remittances go to household. Some of it is for purposes of business, capital. As the Honorable Adongo observed, you don't tax capital. So concessions, I want anybody to show to me where they have approved a budget subject to unknown concessions. The concessions are known only to Minister of Finance and to the Honorable Osei Mensah Bonsu. Is that how the Parliament of Ghana should work? Is that how Parliament should approve a budget policy and economic policy statement of government? We are a very constructive and reasonable opposition. Therefore, we made adjustment. We also further indicated to them that you cannot automatically adjust fees and charges. We said if you want, you can take it to the Public Financial Management Act so that it will be taken care of, but not at the behest of Minister Ken Ofori-Atta that every other year, automatic 15%. He doesn't have that mandate today, and he won't have that mandate tomorrow. But let me warn that from tomorrow, every other decision of Parliament will be by voting.
And that's the minority leader, Haruna Iddrisu, addressing a press conference immediately after the motion had been adopted by Parliament as to the approval of the 2022 budget. But I said we were going to see clarity on the matter of what happened today in Parliament. We're joined online by lawyer Eric Delano Alifo. Lawyer, good evening, and thanks so much for joining us.
Good evening. How are you doing?
I'm doing well, thank you, and thanks so much for joining us. So we called you to clarify the Constitution for us. Article 104, which has been at the center of this brouhaha, which talks about the number of members of parliament who must be present at the time the motion was being passed, and also those who are going to cast their vote, and the role that the first deputy speaker, who was sitting in as a speaker, has to play in all this.
Yes. Okay. Well, all right, fine. I have not been watching your show for some time, and so I don't know what discussion has gone on so far. But regarding the question you have asked, the Article 104, which is in the middle of all of this, it requires that there should be at least half of all members of parliament present. They should be present, and the language of the Constitution is that present and voting. So, and that is open for the kind of interpretation, various interpretations that both sides are making. And then people who support both sides are also stretching all of this. But what clearly it means is that if half of all members of parliament are present in the House for Business, then they can make a decision. They can vote and make a decision. You see, it doesn't say that at the time of voting, only at the time of voting, there must be half of members present. That is not what the provision says. It just says that at least half of the members of parliament should be present and voting. So what is happening now is that, you see, the members on Friday, about 132 or 33 members of MPP were in parliament. They signed up, they signed the register, attendance register, and then they signed up for the business of the day. And the business of the day would have been advertised, and it included the approval of the budget or economic policy statement or the 2022 budget. So they were aware of that. And then about 130 something of them came to parliament. And then about 137 of NDC members also came to parliament. They also signed the attendance register, and they signed up for the business of the day. The business had started, and they had discussed, I believe some discussions were made, but a statement perhaps, I don't know if I'm referring to, I'm using the right terms, statement was made by the finance minister, and then the leaders of both sides made comments, and so the business was ongoing. And then at some point in the process, the government side of the House decided to walk out, and at that point they were just about to vote or to make a decision, and then they walked out. So when they walked out, the speaker went ahead and put a question, and a decision was made. So the question is that, would it be said that when all these members, about 170 or so of them, signed up for business of the day and they were present at parliament, and the register can be picked up to verify that they were all in parliament, can it be said that because they were not at the chamber at the time of voting, they were absent from parliament? That is a question, and I don't think so. I don't think so. I think that, you see, otherwise, if we interpret the provisions, that is the Article 104, and then the Standing Order 109, if we interpret it this way, then what it means is that, you see, members of parliament will always frustrate the decision-making process in parliament, because what they will always do is that they will come to parliament and do all the business, and then when it gets to the time of voting, if they realize that they don't have the numbers to sway the decision to their side, they will just walk out. And if they do that, then it means that parliament will never be able to make any decision. And I don't think that is the purpose of these two provisions. That is Article Article 104 of the Constitution, and then Order 109 of the Standing Order. So I think that once they have come to parliament and they have signed up for business, they are in parliament. That's all. Because again, let me also point out that, you see, members of parliament have the right to abstain from voting, or abstain from the decision-making process. So, well, if they walk out, it could as well mean that they just don't want to vote. It could as well mean that they are just abstaining from voting. So how would you say that because they walked out at the time of voting, so it should be taken that they were not in parliament at all, or they were absent from parliament? And that is the controversy right now. today, what happened in Parliament today, and the first thing that I think is wrong is that once the Speaker pronounced on Friday that the 2022 budget was rejected, and this is the Speaker of the House. The Speaker of the House is the boss of the Deputy Speaker. So in the very first place, I don't think that it is right for the Deputy Speaker to come and preside over Parliament now and overturn a decision that the Speaker had presided over. I think that is wrong. That's number one. And then number two, what they tried to do today was that they have 137 on the side of NPP, and I believe that included the one independent member. And then the presiding speaker today was Mr. Joe Sewusu. And so Mr. Joe Sewusu, being a member of parliament himself, he counted himself as one of the MPs that were in the House. So meaning they have 138 in all. And so they concluded that once we are 138, it means that we are at least half of the total number of MPs. And so we can now go ahead and make a decision, or to vote or make any decision we want to make. So yes, he didn't put himself in the controversy as to whether he has a right to vote, whether he has original vote or he has a casting vote and all of that. I believe that one was out because it didn't even come to that question. That would have come if there were a tie, if both sides were in the House and they voted 137, then the question will come as to whether he even has that opportunity to cast a vote. So that question did not arise today at all. So I don't think that is where we should be going, because some people are arguing, and this is particularly, they are arguing that once you sit on the seat of the Speaker, whether you are the Deputy Speaker or you are the Speaker himself, you shouldn't have the opportunity to vote at all, whether it's a casting vote or original vote. You shouldn't have that. But that question did not arise today because the Speaker didn't vote. And the reason he didn't vote is that once they meet that requirement of at least half of the total number of MPs, they just need a simple majority. And a simple majority today is 137-0. They are 137. So if they voted, it's 137-0. So there's no need for anybody to, for the Speaker presiding to cast a vote. That is why that question does not arise. But I think it is very wrong, because the decision that was taken on Friday, in my view, is valid. And they proceeded today on the basis that it was not valid. And if it was not valid, they had to remember that that decision was made by the Speaker of Parliament, the boss. And so his deputy cannot now come and quash that decision. And quash that decision is in a dubious, I consider the way they did it as dubious, in a dubious manner. Because it's dubious because they counted the one who was presiding also as one of the MPs, and they have 138. And then they concluded that because we had 138, we have met that requirement.
I need you to educate us a little bit. The 104 clause 2, which talks about the Speaker having neither an original nor casting vote.
Yes.
The original which is there, what is the Constitution saying? What does it mean?
Well, you see, original vote is that when everybody is voting, at the time everybody is voting, the Speaker, if the Speaker were to have an original vote, then he could vote at the time everybody else, every MP is voting. That is what it means, that you have original vote. So you also vote alongside everybody else. But a casting vote is only when there's a tie, meaning that particular person who has a casting vote will not have original vote. So when they are voting in the first instance, he will not have to vote at all. He will only come in if there's a tie. Then he breaks the tie. So he breaks the tie by the casting vote. That is what it means. And they are saying that the Speaker of Parliament has neither of those. You see, but if you look at the language also, it says the Mr. Speaker. So whether the Mr. Speaker means the Speaker, the substantive Speaker, excluding the deputy speakers, or it means that anybody who is presiding at a particular time as a Speaker, that is the issue right now. And either side is interpreting this in their favor. So that is the situation that we have, because I hear the NDC side arguing that once you are sitting in the seat of the Speaker, then you are the Speaker, and so you would have neither original nor casting vote. That is what they are saying. And then I heard the MPP side argue that if you are a deputy Speaker because in the case of the deputy speaker, it doesn't state that they will have neither original or casting vote. So they are saying that deputy speaker will not have original vote, but may have a casting vote. That's what they were arguing. But like I said, that question did not arise at all in today's proceeding. And the reason it did not arise is that the casting vote would only come if there's a tie. And there was no situation for a tie today because it was only one-sided decision. It was 137-0. So there was no tie, and so that question will not come. But I just try to explain to you.
That point you make about, I'm trying to make sense of it, because you see, if you read down of Article 104, the clause 3, it is clear when it states that when the votes on any motion are equal, which is the tie you are talking about, it shall be taken to be a loss. Or it shall be taken to have been to be lost. In that regard, there is no matter of a tie. There is a matter of a loss. So the matter you are making, the case you are making about it being a tie, nothing like that exists therein. There can only be a loss.
Yes, but I'm explaining to you what the casting vote means, because you asked the question about the casting vote. So I don't have the constitution in front of me, but what you have just said, what it means is that in the case of the speaker, you see, in the case of the speaker, because if you proceed on the basis of Article 104, it first says that the speaker will not have the original or casting vote. So it means that there's no opportunity for anybody to have a casting vote. So if there's a tie, it means that motion is lost. It's finished. Nothing is going to happen again. You see, but yes.
So if he assuming the seat of the speaker denies him the opportunity to cast a vote, which invariably would mean that his MPship, his membership, doesn't exist.
Yes. So that is the controversy. That is why I'm saying that in the case of the deputy speaker, you see, in the case of the deputy speaker, then that may be trickish. I do agree, it may be trickish, because what in the case of the deputy speaker, it doesn't talk about casting vote. It only talks about will not have original votes. You see, and if it doesn't have original vote, does that mean that the person would have a casting vote? And I am very, very sure that is what would have happened today if NDC side were to be in the House, because they will be 137 and the MPP side will be 137. And I believe strongly that the MPP side would have argued that the deputy speaker who is on the seat is an MP, is representing a constituency, and his people must have a voice. And so they would say that they would argue that they would have to have a casting vote. That's what they would have said. But the question did not arise because they didn't have any opposition at all. So they just had a 137-0. So that question did not arise. I don't know if I'm making sense. Yes, so clearly, in the case of the speaker, it's very clear to me that in the case of the speaker, it is stated clearly that the speaker would have neither original nor casting vote. That is clear. But how about the deputy speaker, who is an MP, who is representing a constituency? And then the argument may arise that, well, somebody has to represent those people also over there. And so although he may not have original vote because he's presiding, he should have a casting vote. That is what they would argue. That is what MPP would have argued. If had NDC stayed in the House today and had they voted, and then the result would be a tie, they would have argued this. I believe strongly they would have argued this. I'm sure they were prepared for that. But because that situation didn't arise, that question also does not arise. But I'm even going far beyond that. I'm saying that what happened today is very wrong in the first place, because I'm saying that, you see, they quashed the decision of Friday because they argued that it was null and void. They argued that it was nullity. They argued that it was invalid because the House did not have at least half of MPs present. And I'm saying that that is not right because they were all there. They were all there. They only went out at the time of voting. And if that is what if that's how they want us to understand the law, then it means that MPs can, anytime they realize that, they don't have the numbers to sway a decision on their side, they will just walk out. I don't think that is the purpose of the law. So if they have come to Parliament, they have signed up for business and they know what business it is, and they have started, then even if they walk out, that should be construed as having abstained. So it can't be taken that they were absent and so nobody can make a decision in the House. That is a problem.
Lawyer, well, thank you for making time to join us tonight on Fact Sheet. We'll go for a short breather, and when we bounce back, We'll
Thank
just
you.
try to see the way forward, God willing, tomorrow. And welcome back to Fact Sheet. Sefa, our time is fast spent.
Yes.
Let me give you your final comments. Let me take your final comments before
Well,
we wrap up.
I think that in the first place, what I'll say is that it's a bit appalling to see Parliament running shifts now, because when there's a decision that is likely to go in favor of one of the groups in Parliament, there is an obvious instance of one of the group walking out or staging a walkout. And I remember the minority leader, Harun Idris, also issued a caveat that from tomorrow, every decision that has to be taken on the floor of Parliament should be by voting. I don't know whether that will be a part or a new part of the standing orders of Parliament, or by head count. But I think that all in all, we happen to be in a bit of what I call legal quagmire, because we are having different interpretations of the same article that was the bone of contention for this particular approval or otherwise of the 2022 budget. I believe that going forward, one of the members of Parliament mentioned when we were having a conversation with him on Epahon Adabeng that he would wish to take this matter to the Supreme Court for better interpretation of that particular clause. However, you see, the argument raised by the minority in Parliament is that you come to Parliament, you register for the business of Parliament on that day. It means that you are present in Parliament. So your decision to stage a walkout should not in any way nullify a decision that has been taken on the floor of Parliament, because we've seen precedents before that we've had certain groups on the floor of Parliament walking out, but when a decision was taken, the decision was binding. We said that it was members of Parliament who took that particular decision. I think we need better interpretation going forward so that we can understand and put the matters into their right perspective.
We're still trying to understand what happened in Parliament. We are trying to understand the implications for us. If the Finance Minister says that they are going to consult and then make the appropriate reviews of the 5 asks that the minority had said they wanted done. If the Finance Minister goes ahead to grant these, even if there is a review, downward review of the 1.75 to, let's say, 1.2, or even 0.75 as was preferred by ISE, what would it mean for the revenue target of government? Would they be able to achieve their revenue target, and would they be able to implement the programs that they seek to do in the budget? These and many more would we discuss, God willing, tomorrow morning on the Happy Morning Show. I'm grateful that you made time to join us tonight on the show. Forgive us for our inability to reach our guests this evening for want of time. But we had planned to speak to Professor John Gachi, Dean of School of Business, University of Cape Coast. We spoke to lawyer Eric Delano Alifo, who is a private legal practitioner, and then Mr. William Amofa, who is a governance expert. But that did not happen. But I've been here with my colleague, Sefa Dankwa. We wish you the very best, and Girl Vibes is up next.